Hello, everybody, and welcome to Little Nightmares, the secret story behind everything. I'm gonna give you everything you need to know, quick and simple. I'm pretty proud of how I figured everything out. So let's get right into it. The very first thing we need to explain is the eye. What does the eye mean? Why is the eye everywhere? No matter where you go in the world of Little Nightmares, the symbol of the eye will be there, watching, ominously. Let's talk about that. In the Little Nightmares world, there seems to have been an entity that took over the world around the 1920s, 1930s. Since Little Nightmares is based on Lovecraftian universe, there's a cosmic horror, which we will call the entity, that has taken over the world. And that's why you see the eye everywhere, because it represents the entity that is the god or the ruler of the world. In the world of Little Nightmares, you will find two types of children, and it seems like children were not affected by the entity's influence. So that even though their parents were transformed and twisted into some kind of puppet, children themselves seem to realize that the world has been taken over. Now, I say there's two types of children because there's the regular human children, and then there's the other children. You see, the reason the entity came to Earth and took it over was not only to feed upon humanity, but to create a breeding ground, a nursery, where it could have its children. And in the world of Little Nightmare, the children that possess powers beyond human nature are the children of this entity. The children this entity is breeding. And that's where our two protagonists come into play. You see, the entity breeds children for service. As in, she needs to have children on the planet so she could keep up her feeding and whatever purpose the entity has. So she breeds. And Mono and Six are children of the entity. Therefore, they were bred for a specific purpose, and that's why they have powers. Now, let me take you back to the very first game of Little Nightmares, which is called Very Little Nightmares. Is a mobile game. In the very first game, we run into a place that is called the nest, and it's called the nest for a reason, because that's where the children are nested. Throughout the universe of Little Nightmares, you have people that are created to be puppets, and then you have people that are created to serve, and they're enslaved to serve because they have a particular skill. So as you can see, the world controls everybody like puppets. And there's two types of puppets. There's the puppets that contain some of their humanity because they have valuable skills like being teachers, doctors, cooks, and they have value to teach the children that are growing up in this nursery and are necessary to the order. On the other hand, you have the puppets that lost all their humanity, and they have been completely engulfed into the entity's mind control puppeteering, and they're only there to feed the entity and her children. Just like the teacher and the janitor and the craftsman and the butler and everybody you ever run into that's not a child of the entity, you have the doctor, and they serve a purpose. They serve a purpose. That's why they still retain some of their humanity. Yet they're going insane and they're suffering. But the doctor clearly has a purpose to keep the food alive and in control of the entity. As you can see through the doctor's work, The entity needs as little as a human torso, and the rest could just be prosthetic and fake limbs. That's all the entity needs to puppeteer a human body and still have control and plenty of food. When you first run into the nest, you run into a girl called the Pretender. And the reason she's called the Pretender is because she's pretending to be something she's not. She's pretending to be the princess of the house. And everybody is serving her. But it is my understanding that the real princess of the house is Six, and that Pretender took her place. And Six is trying to escape her dark destiny. So since the beginning of the series, the logo of the series itself has been an eye within an eye, as in the eye and the symbol of six within the eye, saying basically that six is part of the eye. So as we see here, since the very first game, we have the dreamlands, the symbol of the eye being created in the cloud, and this is Six, dreaming about her unavoidable position that she has to fulfill because her name is Six, she's the sixth one. Therefore, is she the sixth child or is she the sixth geisha? Whatever it is, her position is unavoidable to be in the maw, and that's why she's attracted to the maw over and over. And just like in the first game, the second game starts out with our second protagonist, Mono, having a dream of his destiny and unavoidable end, where he is being called constantly. So they're always dreaming about their position and they're always being attracted to where they're supposed to be because they're the next ones in line. Always waking up, coming from the dreamlands. And just like Six is always being pulled and called to the maw where she belongs, Mono is always being pulled and called to the tower where he belongs because they were bred for those positions. They're the next ones in line. They're part of the system. And that's what it all is a system. And in the case of Mono, he is the controller of the signal. The main signal, the sound wave, because that's what mono means, is a sound setting, a stereo sound setting where you take many sounds and you combine them all to one frequency. He is the controller of the frequency. That's why he controls and he collects the frequencies of all the children that he finds. And at the end, he controls the frequency of the world and manipulates it with his will alone. So you see, Six realizes that Mono has always been taking her to the tower since the beginning. That was his purpose. That even if he didn't want to or he didn't know it, he's part of it all. And he was taking her to the tower all along, and she comes to that realization where he's part of it. Even if he doesn't know it, he was channeling the Thin Man all along to catch Six. He was always attracted to the signal, and he was taking Six backwards towards danger instead of away. So there you go, guys. That's the story of Little Nightmares. What happened, what's going on, who are the children, and who's the I. The Earth has been conquered, and it's another dystopian universe where everything is just so messed up. I'm so happy with myself for figuring all this out. I really think this is the truth of Little Nightmares, and this is what's going on. I've looked through many theories on YouTube, and I have not seen anybody come up with something like I did. I'm really happy. And if you like all the story and where I took this whole story, I hope you press like and subscribe and might actually check out my longer, more detailed explanation of the Little Nightmares world. But thank you guys, and I'll see you next time.